Hey, what's up, guys? Nikki Rohde here, Managing Director at Falls Fintech, sitting down with Trent Sorby, co-founder and president of our payments division.
Hey everyone, I'm Trent Sorby. I'm the founder of Central Payments, and with Nikki, one of the co-founders of Falls Fintech.
Question of the day.
First question.
First question. How the hell did we get here?
I ask myself that all the time. Look, I think it's just a function of having an idea and just running with it and not being afraid to put it together as we go.
Yeah. So you're the idea guy. I always say that. Trent never lets grass grow under his feet. So you call all the time and say, hey, here's something else. Here's something else. Besides me wanting to kill you in that process, or at least throw something at you, which ironic. The Falls Fintech generated by you going, what? What spawned the idea?
I think we were seeing across the industry the difficulty banks were having. Everybody in the banking space knew that they had to find a way to work with fintechs. Mm-hmm. And fintechs in many cases needed banks. And there was just this canyon. I mean, there were all these obstacles that we said, look, we've got to figure out a way to bridge this. We've got to figure out a way, not just for the bank or a bank to be more fintech ready, but how do you get the fintech to be more bank ready? Mm-hmm. And I think the accelerator all started with the idea that we can affect a lot of change internally at Central, but how do we help those fintechs prepare as well for, a pretty drastic change from what they may be used to date? So I think it's just a function of trying to bridge a big gap.
Mm-hmm. So Central Bank of Kansas City, Central Payments, talk a little bit about the genesis of those two environments, and then of course it transcends into being the catalyst for Falls Fintech. Where to begin? I mean, long time ago. I mean,
how far back do you want me to go?
I don't think we have time for much more than at least 10 years, and this is all we can handle, Trent.
In the end, banking is changing so fast and so rapidly that I think those that are thinking ahead, and I give Central Bank a ton of credit, that they said, we're going to effectively get out of the product business. We're not going to compete on product anymore. We're going to really focus on being a supplier of the infrastructure. Mm-hmm. And I think out of that concept, Central Payments was born. Out of that concept, Falls Fintech was born. Out of that concept, our technology applications were born. And I think it's just all sort of part of an evolution that's taking place. And, the organization trying to stay ahead of it.
Mm-hmm. So when I think about 2019 and you come and says, knock, 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 I think we should do this accelerator. And I said, what the hell's an accelerator? And you said, let's figure it out. I often give you grief behind your back, of course.
Often.
Yes, about being a quasi co-founder since you're running Central Payments. And I'm trying to run Falls Fintech. There's a little bit of a divide, but again, being the idea guy, I think it constantly pushes the process forward. Instead of us just saying with seasonal cohorts, we're expanding this thing to be more of a year-round profit center with a mix of mission, but sticking with the value of why we started this whole thing to begin with, right?
Yep, absolutely. I think, nudging you to think about Falls Fintech as more than just 2 10 or 12 week periods of time in a year to creating how you spread that value add all year round. Mm-hmm. How do we make Falls Fintech a business? Right. And, I think the first 2 cohorts, now going into cohort 3, we're starting to really understand how we can continue to fill needs and gaps and voids that ultimately create value for the business.
Mm-hmm. So most companies get there after 3 or 5 years. About 6 months in, you start to get a little uncomfortable going, hey, we've done this. Let's stretch and bend. And so we're a year in and already thinking about other things like an academy type of program, Falls Fintech Now.
Yeah, bringing technology into it.
Right. So OpenCP at Central Payments plays a big part into Falls FinTech and expediting these entrepreneurs' path to market, because now we're going to bring them this product where they can play around in the sandbox, if you will, but be at a production prototype. So where did that idea come from, idea guy? And I think you're trying to kill me. Like, I really think you might be trying to kill me, because the idea of let's run 3 cohorts, let's add product, let's turn it into a profit center, let's do an I mean, maybe? Or you're just expediting
There is some schadenfreude involved in watching you twist and turn all the time.
You just want my hair to be as gray as yours.
Yes.
I think that's probably true.
I think we learned so much from those first 2 cohorts, and we learned so much from all the applicants, and we learned so much about what others in the space are doing. And I think my vision ultimately of what Falls FinTech should be is, how can it become a business line for Central? How can our approach to FinTech by itself be a business line, and still serve its underlying mission? And we say that all the time at Central Bank as well. How do we do this and still be true to our core, still be true to what we want to do? And they've been successful since the 1950s.
Right.
So I don't think there's any reason Falls FinTech can't do the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a dance.
It's just learning and adapting and constantly being open to tweaks and changes along the way until you really sort of find stride.
Yeah. Right. You tell me what your favorite thing is about Falls FinTech, and I'll tell you mine.
I love sitting at the whiteboard with these founders. You're always, when we get in these, you're always cutting me off because we'd spend all day with each one of them.
Yeah.
What you don't know is I send them messages all the time around, hey, I was thinking about this. I was thinking about this. Would you consider this? If you did this.
Idea guy.
Well, to me, it's having them force us to think about our world and our industry differently. And then for us, I think, to challenge them and to say, look, the reason all this hair is gray is, some of us have been around a while and we've seen things work a long time. Thank you. And we've seen things work and not work. And we put you in this accelerator because we're excited about your idea, but we can see potential pitfalls as well. And we want to help you see those. Mm-hmm. So what's your favorite? Was that the answer you thought I was going to say?
No.
What did you think I was going to say?
Save that for another episode. Well, considering you said, I guess that's probably fairly in line. I thought it was more about, moving and shaking and, getting them to market soon and watching that happen, knowing that we've kind of taken the ball across to.
Yeah, there's a competitiveness to it. All of us around here have a competitive streak to us, I think. And so to me, it's always exciting to find really good ideas sooner than our competitors have had a chance to find them. And for them to sit back and say, how did they do that? I'm 2 years from being able to think about that. Mm-hmm. That is something that we looked at Falls FinTech and says, how can we find the best and the brightest before our competitors find them? But in the end, it's about just kind of hammering on the whiteboard with them.
I think for me, it's about watching their passion get a chance. It seems like there's a tenacity that goes with entrepreneurs, and they hit hurdle after hurdle after hurdle and barrier after barrier, and knowing that we have almost seemingly most of, if not all of, what they need to overcome those last mile things, overcome some of those hurdles, and really get to a point where everything that they've wanted, everything that they've given up, constant salaries, a typical structure, they work so hard to let this dream become a reality, that giving them that oomph to get to that point. One of my favorite things we've heard from a prior cohort person is, I love that Falls FinTech is a place where we can succeed together, and we can be vulnerable together, and we can fall on our faces together, and there's like dust you off, help each other up. Because it seems like entrepreneurs have to have this game face on all the time and prove to people why they're the next big thing and they've got it all together. But underneath it all, there's a mental health component that it's okay to say that they don't have it all together. They just need a safe place to do that. And watching them lock arms with each other and then serve each other in a way that it just kind of helps grow their own business and creates this confluence is really, really fulfilling. There's the squishy answer.
You took the words out of my mouth.
Did you expect that?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think that's a great example of how the two perspectives work together. Because I think you come from it that the camaraderie, the vulnerability, the anxiety of what they're doing, they feed off of one another. They're motivated by one another. I think about more what are the tactical challenges in front of them, but some of them just are struggling. You think about the strain of being a founder it would have on your family, your vision of the future. You can't look if you're dreaming more than a year into the future. I don't want to say you're wasting your time, but these folks are just thinking about what the next 6 months look like.
Yeah.
The odds of them being the next PayPal are unbelievably difficult odds.
And that's the deal, is when they face those odds every day, I think they're just looking for the real opportunity. Hence, that's what I think founded our tagline, is this real substance in our curriculum, real connections in our payments ecosystem, our sponsors, our bank, our knowledge, real opportunity. You get a bank,
right,
and you get all these things that go with it. And that's the lifeline that a lot of times seemingly people need.
And it's interesting because I think that exposes vulnerabilities in their model too, because we've helped strip away what oftentimes are viewed as real challenges.
You said it.
But I think it does bring to the surface things they're wondering about around distribution, around consumer uptake and customer experience. So if you load them up with all the connections they need, you connect them with some funding, you bring them a bank deal, you bring them all the technology they need to get access to the whole ecosystem, you've sort of taken a lot of the excuses away.
Right.
And now it's up to the founder to say, okay, do I think I can acquire customers?
Yep.
Do I think people are going to take my product, keep my product, and use my product in a way that it's going to be profitable for me? Because all the other barriers, the Central and False Fintech have really solved for those, or at least made it much easier to solve for.
Something that we've heard a lot as of late is this fragmented financial services environment in the United States, especially as we talk to more people from, overseas, Canada, pick your geographical area. It's like the United States financial services is terribly hard to navigate. And BAS, PAS, SAS.
All the asses.
All the asses.
Too many asses.
Too many
asses in
of them.
fintech.
Can you dub that? Can somebody write that down? It's perfect. But that's something that we've, I think, seen and will be weaving into this next cohort too, is how to navigate that ecosystem. And where Central Payments plays in is that we have this caring, servanthood-minded, vulnerable, authentic environment for them to come into, but then it does fold into the platform, the technology, the know-how, one connection point, overcoming all the asses, because we are a BAS, the real BAS. SaaS with our software, payments as a service, fintech as a service, platform as a service, product as a service, pick your whatever.
We're a really big ass.
I'm going to let you keep that title.
We'll see if that makes it through the editing.
Yep. What do you say? But anyway, that's where, when you look at accelerators, we never wanted this to be a dog and pony show, right?
What do we used to call it?
Petting zoo.
Petting zoo, the fintech petting zoo.
Yeah.
Right?
And so from the very get-go, we founded this with the idea that this can't be about showboating people around and making us look good. This was about really delivering them the real thing.
And I think there are a lot of similar type accelerators, incubators, et cetera, that once you sort of work your way through the curriculum, it's sort of like, okay, now what? Well, here you go. There's the real world. I'm always very interested to see how we can differentiate ourselves because there's a business component to this. There is something after False FinTech. It's market, it's launch, it's your thing. And so I think that's going to change. It changes the nature of the companies that come to False FinTech. It certainly changes the way Central looks at companies coming out of False FinTech and how we've had to adapt, to really be able to bring these companies, or at least put them in a good spot to be successful.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. The other thing we had talked about was really being the FinTech hub of maybe the Midwest or even beyond. There's funding and programs on each coast, but this Midwest area often thought of as the flyover states, this kind of chasm of nothing. And the truth is financial services in Sioux Falls is obviously huge and prevalent. You call it a mecca in a lot of times. The tech talent pool is here, and really we're starting to make more connections with Midwest funds, which is a really important thing. But now we're getting calls from companies that say, do I fit your criteria for your program? And it's like, yeah, you're a little too early, or you're a little too late, or you don't. So we've kind of, what started out to be, let's catch these guys that are too early, are now even a bit more myopic. And so we want to create programs that would help serve the concept guy.
How do we expand the False FinTech offering to create value add no matter where the prospect is in their life?
That's right. Point of contact, False FinTech, all things kind of FinTech. I've got an idea, all the way down to I've raised $3 million and maybe I'm not ready to go to market. And so play in the sandbox for a while, production, proof of concept, whatever. So having tracks or bridges, if you will, that serve for any.
I think you're going to find that a lot of these VCs are going to look at False FinTech as almost a credentializing entity, like you've accredited the FinTech.
I actually heard that from one that we talked to the other day that said, I love that you guys have pre-vetted a lot of these folks. And if you're endorsing them.
Now, if you take the fact that they've graduated, if you will, from False FinTech, and you add to that a technology component where they're in some sort of production environment, I think False FinTech becomes very attractive because the venture capital folks are going to say, you can't get any closer to being ready, right? I mean, we've eliminated so much of the barriers that cause so many of these companies to fail that, like I said, False FinTech is going to become an accrediting organization, I think, almost. Talk about how False FinTech Now does that.
Yeah, so False FinTech Now is the product that we kind of conceptualized here and will be a debit card that somebody can subscribe to, get 25 cards, and really, to your point, say, dear potential investor, take this product, or maybe it's not a card, it's just moving money in their app. Go test this in test flight, but watch a real live transaction happen. Really just drives home that proof of concept and once again edifies what they're doing, that this is more than just an idea. We hear a lot about pre-revenue traction, and so we're just looking for ways to drive more tangible traction that investors can hang their hats on.
Absolutely. Somebody used the term the other day, or I scribbled it down somewhere, that said it's sort of like market launch at your pace. Here it is, and by using it and by proving your concept, our confidence level is higher, investors' confidence level is higher, everybody feels better about what you're doing, and your odds of success naturally go up. And so I think it's going to be a game changer. I think, for any company to come in with, a concept that they want to try, even big companies. And I think, we were talking to a large company yesterday, and you were on that. And we said, this is the place to go if you want to go build a cutting edge product with your enormous amount of resources, but you're just not sure yet, right? And you don't want to expend a ton of time and energy and money. This is a place to go and just create ideas. And then I think also there can be a like a community aspect to this. Everybody that's in Falls FinTech now is thinking about a lot of these same problems. And I think what you're going to find is you're going to have 2 or 3 companies that say, boy, what you're doing is my missing piece over here. And then boom, together, we've solved a problem together.
Yep.
And so I think there's going to be this community effect that's going to get created by that I think to be really excited.
One of our values of Falls FinTech is community, community, community. We're all stronger together. So kind of building on this premise that collaboration is always going to be a better solution for at least our accelerator than a competition.
I don't think we really imagined in the beginning how compelling some of the stories of these founders are. How does that weave into what we're doing here today?
Well, I think it's exactly what we're doing here today. We've realized that as Falls FinTech becomes more of a real thing, more than just this test bed, can this have legs and stay? We need to do more of these things, telling the story of who Falls FinTech is, how we were founded, but then even more than that, the companies coming through, the sponsors that are lifting us up and really making this sustainable. How can we tell that story and follow that trajectory of all of these companies? So more of this, more of those kind of tales and stories coming out as we continue into this year. So I'd say people just need to stay tuned and follow what's to come.
Can I come back?
Debatable.
Okay.
Peace.
Peace.